And that's if you have them with us, if we have them, right?
Yeah, no, we have, as long as we have them. So if they already have a license here, we have their fingerprints already, most likely.
For the application, if there are 4 people, we talked about that one already. Okay. If I owe back taxes, can you still get a C10 license? So can they get a license if they owe back taxes?
You have to submit that, disclose that. There is a question on our application. Then our judgment unit will review that and we will let you know.
Yeah, just make sure you answer correctly, the correct question.
Yeah. Yes.
How long does the whole process usually take? That varies. It varies for everybody's individual because some fingerprints we see come back right away, others take a little bit more. And so it just depends. It really does depend. Roughly, if you want to look at our processing times, as I mentioned, you can go on our website right now and see what dates we're working on. Yeah, and also other people, it takes longer for them to pass the examination. Some people pass right away. Some people, they have to come back a couple of times to take the exam, and that's perfectly fine. We mentioned you can take it as many times as you need to in an 18-month period. So it just is different for every person. But Bo did mention that if you submit your application today, it will take about 6 to 8 weeks before somebody contacts you.
Correct.
Okay. Is the first step before submitting an application to go to the Secretary of State for my business entity?
Yeah, if it's a corporation, LLC, yes, you have to register that with the Secretary of State, because once we receive it, we will check to see who are the members or officers to make sure your application reflects what's on the Secretary of State records.
But if you're applying for a sole ownership, you don't have to do that. So it just depends.
Yeah, correct.
I am a bit confused on the cost for the official license. I thought it was $300. Fode, what's the cost for the license?
The initial application you submit is $330. And then once you pass the exam, you're required to submit another $200. That's the licensing fee. So the total would be $530.
Mm-hmm. Before you get your license, that's what you're paying to CSLB.
Yes.
What is your military credit based on? Fode, is that how does the military credit work?
That one is actually, our classification deputy. They will look at your DD 214 and the job you have done, and they decide. The only experience that we look at is beyond 10 years. It's for the military personnel, but our classification deputy actually would look at that and they decide how much credit you get.
Okay. So the way that you would get a hold of our, can you tell them how they get a hold of the classification deputy? We do have a classification deputy that answers these type of questions, and they can email the correct one.
Yes.
And the email is classifications with the S at the end, classifications@cslb.ca.gov. Okay. Sorry, I kind of lost track of where I was. So do you know what time that we received that question? I lost my marker.
Sorry, what was that question?
What time was our last question there? Was that I see the back taxes at 11:01. We got, if I'm not employee but been working with general contractors hired for the duration of each project from start to finish supervised, can that experience be counted? So we talked about that one. If my college degree is not in English language, where can I validate the degree? So if their degree is not in English, Fode, what do they need to do?
Yeah, you have to actually evaluate it. So there are agencies out there, accredited agencies. What they do, they look at your transcripts and give you a report of the equivalency. So they tell you, okay, your degree in this country is equivalent to this degree in here, United States. So you need to get it evaluated, not just translated, evaluated.
Okay. As an owner builder, can I apply for a Class C license if I have a bachelor degree in architecture and 2 years of construction apprenticeship certificate? So you can apply as long as you have 4 years of verifiable experience. You can see the chart. We have the chart up to see how much experience you're going to get for your education. And as long as that combined with your work experience equals 4 years within the last 10 years, you can apply. Would a bachelor's degree, I'm sorry, go ahead, folks.
Yeah, the two things here is you cannot use owner builder for C, licenses, and your degrees, we would count the one that gives you highest. So you can combine the apprenticeship and a degree. We give you what gets you the most, and you at least need 1 year of hand experience, whatever we give you. So we give you the most, depends on which one get the most. If the architecture get the most or the apprenticeship, we give you that one only, not the combination.
Next question. Would a bachelor's degree in business administrator and 2 years of side projects, and he has receipts to prove the work, qualify for enough experience? This is all in regards to acquiring a C-27 license. So let's say like you have a bachelor's degree in business and then 2 years of hands-on experience that he can prove. So would that be enough for him to?
Yeah, based on what we show on the charts, so the business degree would get you 2 years. And if you need 2 years of hands-on experience, that would be 4 years. And treat the business degree just like a law. We have here.
Okay. If a licensed C-16 contractor you have worked for 4 years includes you in his license, could you practice on your own and form your own entity? No. Just because you're on his license doesn't mean that you can practice on your own. You need to if you're forming your own entity, then that's fine. You can apply for your own license. Yes, if you have the 4 years experience. But it looks here like if you're trying to work under his license but do your own projects, that's questionable. You want to make sure you have your own license to do your own projects, right? So
yes, they have to apply for their own license and take the exam.
To do your own projects. Okay. How do I qualify to waive the testing?
Sorry, what was the question?
How do I qualify to waive the testing?
Qualify to waive.
It's about waivers. We talked about waivers.
Like I said, you can check our law book from our website. 7060.1 is the one that talks about the waiver provisions that we have. If you have the classification already, then that would get waived. Otherwise, there are very limited options for waivers. You can check our law book for that.
Okay. Next question. What would a bachelor's degree? So we've talked a lot about how much experience credit you're going to get for your education. The screen is also up. So we're going to go through some of these questions about the education experience because you can refer to the screen that's up right now on the presentation. Okay. Will a bond be required at 1106? Will a bond be required for specialty license like finished carpentry and locksmith? Yes, a bond will be required. A bond is required for all of our licenses. Okay. Next question. I've had a special business license for the past 12 years and want a C-27. Can I use this 12-year experience that you require for the 4 years? If you have 4 years experience in the last 10 years in the landscaping field, then you can apply for a C-27. That's what we're looking for. 4 years in the last 10 years of experience. So C-27, if you have the landscaping experience, yes, you can. Next question. Within each license, A, B, or C, there are different, okay, we've answered that one already as well.
Yeah.
Where do you purchase your insurance? Fode, is there, where can they go to purchase their bond?
Just wait until you pass your exams. Once you pass your exams, then you can purchase them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you will once you pass your exam, they're going to give you a letter. They provide it to you right then and there and let you know that now it's time to go. It's the next step. Go ahead and purchase your bond. I have a 5-year accredited architecture degree. Will that count? Again, we can't give exact information here, so we're going to just refer you to the slide. And if you have any more questions when you submit your application, the technician will let you know. Once they have your certificate or your transcripts in front of them, then they can give you exact information. Without that, we're not able to give exact information.
Correct.
If someone wants to start a company, say installation company, the owner who doesn't have a C2 license would need to hire a licensed technician as RME to get the entity certified properly, correct? So somebody wants to start the installation company, but they don't have, would need to hire a licensed technician as an RME to get the entity certified. If they don't have any experience, can they hire an RME? I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, if you don't have experience, you definitely need to get somebody else to qualify the license for you. So if it's a sole ownership or, you can use RME as an employee. Yes.
I have been the president of multiple corporations for more than 10 years. How should certification of experience be done? So anybody can certify you. Anybody who knows that you have 4 years of journeyman level experience within the last 10 years needs to fill out that form. That's the first step, filling out the work certification form. Like we mentioned, you fill out part A and the certifier fills out part 2 and 3, and then you mail it in with your application. Next question. What is the classification for a handyman? Folks?
We don't have a classification for a handyman. Up to now, the handyman figured, as long as your services cost less than $500, you don't need a license. And then once it goes beyond that, then you have to find the classification that you may be qualified for and apply for that. We do not have a handyman license classification right now. That said, the legislation has approved another B, like a junior B, which doesn't require structural work. That one is in the work, is coming. You may want to, second half of this year, check our website for more information on that. But the handyman does not have a classification.
Yeah, so we're working. It's going to be like a remodeling license. We're working on it. It's still not in effect yet, but stay tuned.
Yes.
Can you provide some tips to help my employer document my work experience? Is it legal or allowed for me to document my experience in my own free time and have my employer read it and sign off on them for accuracy? And no, it has to be, this person has to have knowledge that you have journeyman level experience. So we want it to come from them. We don't want to see it in your writing and for you to say, I know how to do this, 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 and this. We want them to say, I know that Joe has experience doing this and doing this, and we give some experience. We give some examples of what we're looking for exactly. Remember, what we're looking for are the critical duties associated with your classification that you are applying for. If you want to know what CSLB considers critical duties for your classification, what I suggest you do is look at our classification booklet that you can access online. Look for the classification that you are applying for, and in there it tells you all the work that you can do with that classification. If you have experience doing that work, absolutely include that in your work experience certificate. Make sure that the person who is certifying your work experience includes that information, because that's what we consider critical duties. Okay, hope that helps. A journeyman is described as someone who performs tasks without supervision. So if I work under a foreman, is this supervision? So it's not necessarily somebody who works without supervision. It's that you could complete that project with minimal supervision. So just because there's somebody there watching you doesn't mean that you don't qualify at the journeyman level. It's just, do you have that experience? Do you meet that journeyman level? That's what we're looking for.
Correct.
When you renew your license every 3 years, do you have to retake the exams?
You're supposed to renew your license every 2 years.
Right.
But yeah, if you go beyond 1 year, like I said, as long as it's within that 5 years, you're fine. I mean, you can renew your license up to 3 years, but you still don't have to take any exam if you come back and your license expired, try to get it again up to 5 years. Once the 5 years time passed, then you have to retake the exam.
So your exam results are good for 5 years. So you shouldn't have.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Would a bachelor's degree in business administrator qualify? We've answered this one already. Okay. Apprentices. What if it was not a formal apprenticeship program through a trade school? I apprenticed under the owners and project managers. Does it validate a program? Define apprenticeship program so I can clearly know. Thank you. Code.
The apprenticeship programs are usually certified by the Department of, I will get you later, but they're usually through the unions and they are certified. So no, just, going through the apprenticeship, that would become like an experience for you, but it wouldn't be apprenticeship if you work under a private company or a project manager or whatnot. They actually mostly come through the unions.
Right.
And the Department of Industrial Relations. Yeah.
So if you were being trained and you gained experience, you can use the experience, but it wouldn't fall under the apprenticeship program.
Right.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, you're correct. You're correct. Go ahead.
For C61 D49, we are only required to take the law portion. Is that correct? That is correct. Anything that falls under C61 does not have an exam for the trade. You would only need to come in for the law business exam. That is correct. Due to COVID and the current shutdowns, will there be any options in the near future to take exams remotely? Proctored remote? Code, do you know of any plans?
No, it has to be, there are no plans of the remote.
Right. So you'll have to wait until our test centers are open again. You can still apply because we're still processing applications, get your fingerprints done, take care of all of that. And then as soon as the test centers open, we'll get you scheduled.
Yes.
If I'm working for a framing company as a framer, does this count as journeyman level even though I'm supervised by a foreman? Yeah, so we kind of talked about that. Yes, it does. A journeyman is described, we talked about that. If I'm working for a framing company as a framer, okay, submitted many times. Will project engineering experience with a commercial GC working on fixed works projects qualify you for a Class B? I want to transition to smaller projects and I'm wondering if I can get my Class B rather than a Class A. So right now he works for an engineering. It looks like you have project engineering experience. Can he qualify for a B?
We'll have to see. We'll have to see what kind of project you're actually working on. If these are, like working on, like runways in the airport, well, no, that's not Class B. So we have to see the experience and then we'll let you know what classification most fits that trade.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Another question on Class A versus Class B. Which license is appropriate for multi-story buildings, medical buildings? So with the Class B, you can do residential and commercial buildings. Multi-story buildings you can do with a Class B. Class A, as you mentioned, are more, are you building freeways, are you building dams, are you building airports, things of that nature. But if it's a medical building, multi-level, you could do it with a Class B.
Correct.
Am I eligible to obtain a Class C13 if I have performed 3 projects on my own property with inspections? I also have bachelor in architecture and 2 years of building apprenticeship certificate. Yeah,
No, C classification, like we said, you cannot use on your own, as an owner builder, only B. Yeah.
That's only for the B. That only applies if you're getting your B. If you're getting a C, that doesn't apply.
Yes.
If I am working for a framing company as a framer, does this count as a journeyman even though I'm yes, I've already answered that. Okay. My father is a construction worker but doesn't have any type of license. Could I use him as an RME?
As long as he has the 4-year experience in last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking for, 4 years in the last 10. So your first license is valid for 3 years and 2 years following. No, when you apply for your license is good for 2 years. Your license is good for 2 years. You're going to want to renew your license every 2 years. Okay. On the certification of work experience, what type of certifier should I use if I have worked independently and as a sole proprietor? So you can use, it mentions on there a business associate. If you have a business associate that knows that you have 4 years in the last 10 years, that person can do it. If you have ever had a coworker, even if you have customers who verify, and remember, you can make as many copies as you need of that form there to equal the 48 months. If you need 3 different people to certify the 48 months, go ahead and make copies of it and have, one person going to do 1 year, another person going to do 2 years. That's fine. As long as they don't overlap. When you give 48 separate months, that would qualify you. Correct, Fud?
Correct.
Apprenticeship question is not being readdressed with clarity. Can you please elaborate on what exactly qualifies as an apprenticeship that will give credit towards experience? If you have gone to a certified apprenticeship program where you have an actual certification of completion, we will take that into consideration. Other than that, no. If it's certified by the by DIR, then it is, it's registered. It's an official apprenticeship program. If you send in your certification, we will let you know how much credit you can get. And if you're sending us chats, just FYI, because you mentioned you sent a chat, we're not looking at chats. We're looking at the question and answers. As you can see, we have 152 questions to get through. So we're doing the best we can. Okay, we're not looking at the chats. Can I apply for multiple licenses, C27 for landscaping and another license for tree cutting? Okay, so when you submit your original application, you have to select one classification, okay, to begin with. So if you see that you're going to be doing more C27 work, let's say landscaping work, rather than tree cutting, I would begin with that one. You can add as many classifications to your license as you can prove the experience. So let's say you start with the C27. As soon as you get your license number, you can then apply for the tree cutting. If you have 4 years of tree cutting experience, you can absolutely add a classification. It's a different form. It's just an additional classification form. And you can, like I mentioned, you can add as many classifications as you can prove the experience for. Okay, but you start with one on your original application. Do the 4 years have to be consecutive? That's a good question. Vote.
The 4 years have to be, no. Again, within the 10-year period, you need 4 years. Now, it could be scattered in that 10 years, no problem.
Right. And like, let's say 8 years ago, you worked for somebody for 2 years, you can get that person to fill out the form for 2 years. And then if in the last 2 years, you have one person that can certify that, that's fine as well. We will add it all up and make sure you have the 48 months. Can a real estate license support this application in addition to other journey work? If so, where on the application should I include this? So just because you have a real estate license, would that qualify them as experience, folks?
No, that has nothing to do with the experience for the contractor license. No.
Okay. Okay, so we are, it's new now, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up our presentation. That's all the time we have for our workshop. Thank you for all your questions. If you have any other questions about your application, we encourage you to drop us an email to our licensing division. Here's the email address for them. It's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. Also, if at some point you need to reschedule your exam, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams@cslb.ca.gov. We also have put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on the green banner at the top of our homepage at www.cslb.ca.gov. If you're watching the archive video of this workshop on our YouTube page, you'll find the link to the presentation down below.
We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email to social@cslb.ca.gov. A special thanks to our licensing division and public affairs office for their help on this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is copyrighted production of the California Contractors State License Board. Thanks for watching.